this is getting Jimmy Johnson out front as a way last week in the All-Star race. It's really helped him get clean air on his car. We're looking at these guys here. They need clean air on their car.
This could be a log jam here, Darrell, because it looks as if Brad Keselowski and that number 12 Dodge is kind of holding up Martin Truex, Greg Biffle, and Jeff Gordon.
But what a job by that race team right there. Remember, they started back in the 43rd position. That's a backup car for Keselowski in the 12 car. And Jay Guy, his crew chief, decided to go with just 2 right side tires that last caution.
And I tell you another guy, that 24 car, Larry, as the sun goes down and the track starts cooling down, he looks like he's coming alive, Dick.
And that is exactly what Jeff Gordon predicted was going to happen on the radio about 50 laps ago, Darrell. The car was handling poorly. He was all the way back in the 25th position, but he and crew chief Steve Letarte went back and forth and assured each other everything would be well when the sun went down.
I think that's that patience you were talking about, Darrell.
Yeah, I never heard any radio, any complaints out of Jeff's radio other than the car was a little tight.
Well, it's hard to be patient when you see Tony Stewart in the 14 rocket past like you're tied to a stump. And here comes McMurray also on the outside working for position. In the first long green flag run of this race, Jeff Gordon went from 15th back to 23rd. Now he's holding station at 13th position.
Well, I don't think his car is there yet, but it's a lot better than it was.
Yes.
And I tell you, somebody else that's following him up through there, our points leader, Kevin Harvick, in that 29 car. Kevin started in the 23rd position. He's sitting there running in the 15th, now battling Gordon for that 14th spot. This has not been one of Kevin Harvick's better racetracks.
No, in fact, he says it's his worst racetrack.
But that race car has been so steady this year. That's why he's our point leader. And he and Gil Martin, they'll work on that, baby. They'll get him up there before the night's over with. And it'll be, what do you say about him, Mike, every week? Mr.
Where did he come from?
He likes that.
Yes, that's what he said in pre-race. Matt?
And hugging that white line as Kevin Harvick does at so many different racetracks. He's a bottom dweller, and you're right, Mike. Statistically, it's his worst racetrack. Only 1 top 5 finish. Second back in 2001 in this event. Harvick, no changes on that last stop. A very solid performance. The only change they made was a track bar adjustment back on lap 50 because the car was too tight then.
Good battle back here, but second place is heating up as well. Kyle Busch has all but caught his older brother. May have a try at him this lap. And Krista, they're only half a second behind Jimmy Johnson.
Well, Mike, we saw this battle between the Busch brothers last Saturday night in the All-Star event. You mentioned this is a different car for Kurt Busch and his team than they had in that race, but they have the exact same setup. Kurt said he was excited about how it felt from the hot daytime to the cool nighttime. And Steve Addington said their biggest struggle would be surviving and getting through the daytime. They feel like they are best set up when the sun goes down.
Well, they're there then, Krista. And the other thing you got to remember, folks, last Friday night, this young man won the truck race before the All-Star race. Had a shot at winning the All-Star race. He came back yesterday and won the nationwide race. So he should win tonight. I call that a clean sweep.
Yes, it would be. Here is Paul Menard and Mark Martin moving up on Brad Keselowski. That will move Menard up to 16th. And Martin to 17th. A.J. Allmendinger looking in the 43. Made a lot of changes to that car in the last pit stop, and they needed to. He was way loose on the prior run.
Yeah, A.J. Allmendinger, the 43, had worked his way up into the top 15 before we got into some of those pit stops. Now Dale Earnhardt Jr. here in the 88 car. He's in the 21st position. Krista, he started 24th, and this is about where he's been the whole race.
Yeah, Larry, they've really just been trying to keep up with the adjustments. Dale Jr. started the race. Car said the car was pretty good, but real loose off, especially turn 2. So when they came in and made some adjustments, then they got tight in the center. What has he said most recently? Chattering the tires in the center of turns 1 and 2.
That 9 car is the one I can't believe, Larry. I don't know what they did to it. Do you know, Burns?
Well, Darrell, I can tell you what Casey Kane said. They did take 4 tires on the last stop. He's describing his front tires as like a dysfunctional family. He said the left front isn't working and the right front doesn't like it.
Oh, that's funny right there.
We put the fun in dysfunctional, right?
Well, I tell you what, these two brothers, this battle will not go away. And what's amazing, they are battling like this, and Jimmy Johnson in the 48, our leader, is not really pulling away from him. You can see him, the distance right there.
Matt on the third place car.
And Dave Rogers, Mike, methodically keeping this race car ahead of this changing racetrack. The last stop, just a slight track bar adjustment. Kyle said that he wanted a Ziploc bag of ice on the next stop. Very hot inside that cockpit. 600 miles here tonight in Charlotte.
You know, Mike, as I see these two brothers battle like this, I can't help but think a few years ago in the All-Star race in May, where they got together and wrecked each other. They quit speaking to each other. They got to Thanksgiving, and their grandmother said, listen, you two, you are not messing my Thanksgiving up. You two will work this out. Took grandmother to get them straightened out.
I don't know, Larry.
Better get her on the phone, Larry.
Larry, it's 5 months to Thanksgiving.
And I know, but I think we may have to have another meeting. This is getting pretty heated. And what happens here is Kyle will get aggravated with Kurt because Kyle thinks that I've caught you, I'm under you, let me go, quit racing me. And that's where the aggravation sets in.
Well, how'd you ever feel when your brother passed you?
You know, there was times when I was okay with it, but not very often.
Right.
Depending on what part of the race.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson cruising with a 1 second advantage, Steve.
Funny conversation between Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals. Jimmy said this car is sketchy. It was tight and then it got loose and then it's starting to get looser. And Chad Canals said, good, that's good. Jimmy said, if you say so.
Now that's what I was saying about early in the race. You got to know that my car isn't very good, but it's a heck of a lot better than everybody else's. And oh, by the way, sketchy, that's a word my girls use all the time, and I never have figured out what it meant.
You can join errands in support of the Armed Forces Foundation. Text AFF to 50555 to make a $10 contribution to provide vital support to America's military and their families. David Rudiman running in fourth behind Jimmy Johnson, Kurt and Kyle Busch. And this has sorted out for the moment, but it got a little nervous during commercial. Kyle got quite a bit loose, and Kurt came right back up on him and took the spot back, second place.
That was sketchy. I think I know what sketchy is now, and that was it.
But you know, now that they have settled down and Kurt Busch and the two's taken the lead or taken second place away from his brother, these guys are a little bit quicker than our leader Jimmy Johnson in that 48.
Now my buddy Biffle here, man, he's got the brake rotors glowing red. He is all over this car is all over the place. He's on the bottom a couple laps and then he'll go around the top, and I mean, I'm talking the top.
Big fight for 13th here as
look at him out there, Larry. Sorry, Mike.
That's right.
Exactly where he was for 2 practices yesterday.
He is out there, baby.
Well, he's not the only one. In turns 1 and 2, Jimmy Johnson has now found that high line. So is Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Robbie Gordon. There's a bunch of them running up top. Bobby Labonte just made an unscheduled pit stop in the 71. Came back out.
You know, one of the things that I think may be a factor in the way these guys are running this track, when they repaved this racetrack, you know, the asphalt we're accustomed to using back in the day, you know, a lot of aggregate and sand, and this has a lot of polymer in it. And I think it's a little bit more grippier, not just in the groove, but everywhere. I think that's one reason why these guys are able to use the whole racetrack as well as they have.
2006 is when this track was last repaved. Dick?
Well, Joey Logano has dropped out of the top 5 and then some, Mike. He is now in the 13th position. The chassis has gone away on him. Said the car is sliding around. It's just real loose. But that kid does not like a loose race car.
Trying to hold off both Harvick and Biffle. That's a tall order for the young man from Connecticut.
That last round of pit stops it hurt more guys than it helped them, I think. I mean, we've seen a number of cars at 20 kind of going backwards, the 9 going backward. Number of cars that just didn't make the right changes.
Well, I think much to our surprise and probably theirs too, as I talked about in the beginning, a lot of these cars were shoving the nose. They were turning the steering wheel and the front wheels were sliding. I'm sure a lot of them freed their car up. Now I think now that the track's gaining grip, the cars are too loose. The back end's coming around.
You know, I had a couple of guys tell me, though, Larry, it's kind of odd. They said if your car is tight,